book of Proverbs is one of the most loved parts of the Bible. It's treasured for its timeless wisdom and moral lessons. These sayings are attributed to King Solomon, often called the wisest man who ever lived. Proverbs dives deep into life, human nature, and our connection with God. They help us navigate life's twists and turns, covering themes like wisdom, discipline, justice, and the importance of living with integrity. But why do these ancient proverbs, written so long ago, still matter today? In a time when we have endless information, but often feel short on real wisdom, Solomon's words cut through the noise, offering truths that cross both time and culture. Solomon wasn't just another king. He was famous for his immense wealth, power, and most of all, his unmatched wisdom. His proverbs, collected in the Old Testament, are more than just old sayings. They're a guide meant to help future generations live a godly life. These short, sharp statements turn deep truths into memorable life lessons that still speak to our everyday struggles. Whether it's advice on relationships, work, or how we should speak, Solomon's wisdom is as useful now as it was in ancient Israel. This video will dig into what these proverbs mean and show how their wisdom can be applied in today's world. Before we go further into the rich wisdom of Proverbs, I'd like to invite you to subscribe to this channel. If you love diving into the Bible and finding ancient wisdom that still rings true today, subscribing will keep you up to date with all our future content. Our aim is to create a thoughtful community where we explore Scripture together, drawing inspiration and finding practical ways to apply these timeless truths to our everyday lives. To really understand the wisdom in Solomon's Proverbs, we first need to get to know the man behind these timeless teachings. Solomon wasn't born wise. It was something he gained through a deep and meaningful encounter with God. His journey toward wisdom is one of the most pivotal moments in the Bible, setting the stage for the teachings that would define both his reign as king and his contributions to Scripture. As the son of King David and Bathsheba, Solomon was chosen by God to lead Israel. His path to the throne wasn't easy, but it was his humility and his desire for discernment that made him one of the greatest kings in history. Solomon's story begins during a time when Israel was united. His father, King David, had secured the nation's borders, established Jerusalem as its capital, and built a strong, stable kingdom. But as David's life was coming to an end, the question of who would succeed him loomed large. Even though Solomon wasn't David's oldest son, David had promised him the throne, sensing that God had a special plan for Solomon. After some political maneuvering, Solomon finally became king. Even though Solomon wasn't David's oldest son, David had promised him the throne, sensing that God had a special plan for Solomon. After some political maneuvering, Solomon finally became king. However, his reign was forever marked by a life-changing moment that not only transformed his own life, but also shaped the course of biblical history. In 1 Kings 3 verse 5-15, we learn about Solomon's dream encounter with God, where God gave him a once-in-a-lifetime offer. Solomon could ask for anything he wanted. This moment shows a lot about Solomon's heart. Instead of asking for a long life, wealth, or victory over his enemies, things a young, inexperienced king might understandably want, Solomon asked for wisdom. More specifically, he asked for an understanding heart to judge your people, that I may discern between good and evil. 1 Kings 3 verse 9. His request came from a place of humility and a deep sense of responsibility. God was pleased with this request, and he not only gave Solomon incredible wisdom, but also promised him riches, honor, and, if he stayed faithful, a long life. This moment is key because it shows what true wisdom is. It starts with humility. Solomon's desire for an understanding heart shows that he knew his limitations and realized that human wisdom alone wouldn't be enough to lead God's people. Essentially, he was admitting that real discernment comes from God. This idea runs through the entire book of Proverbs. The repeated reminder that the fear of the Lord is the beginning of wisdom, Proverbs 9 verse 10, is a reflection of Solomon's personal experience. He knew that wisdom isn't just about being smart or practical, it's about recognizing God's authority and our reliance on him. Solomon's wisdom became legendary, and soon after his dream, he had a chance to prove it. One of the most famous stories of his wisdom is found in 1 Kings 3 verse 16-28, where two women came to him, both claiming to be the mother of a baby. With no way to test for DNA or use modern science, Solomon had to rely on his God-given wisdom. He proposed cutting the baby in half, knowing that the real mother would rather give up her child than see it harmed. This clever move not only solved the dispute, but also cemented Solomon's reputation as a wise and fair king. But the wisdom Solomon received wasn't just for his benefit, it was a blessing for all of Israel. During his reign, the nation experienced unprecedented peace and prosperity. His wisdom extended far beyond just making decisions in court. It influenced his governance, diplomacy, and even the arts. He built alliances with other nations, including a strategic marriage to Pharaoh's daughter, which strengthened ties with Egypt. His reign also saw the building of the magnificent temple in Jerusalem, a project that had been his father's dream, but was brought to life through Solomon's leadership and wisdom. Solomon's wisdom drew attention from far beyond Israel's borders. One of the most well-known stories of this is the visit of the Queen of Sheba, as told in 1 Kings 10. After hearing about Solomon's wisdom and wealth, she traveled a long distance to test him with hard questions. She brought lavish gifts, but after seeing Solomon's wisdom firsthand, she declared that not even half of his greatness had been told to her. Solomon's wisdom, given by God, became a global testament to the power of seeking divine guidance over chasing after worldly power and riches. However, even Solomon's wisdom had its limits. As he grew older, the Bible tells us that his many foreign wives turned his heart away from God. Despite his wisdom, Solomon's later years were marked by spiritual decline, and after his death, the kingdom eventually fractured. This serves as a stark reminder that wisdom, while a powerful gift, must be paired with ongoing devotion to God. Even the wisest person in history wasn't immune to the temptations of the world. In the book of Ecclesiastes, traditionally linked to Solomon, we see a man reflecting on how empty life can feel when it's lived without God at the center. This reflection stands in sharp contrast to the energetic wisdom of Proverbs, giving us a full picture of Solomon's understanding of life. Solomon's life gives us a deeper appreciation for the Proverbs he left behind. His request for wisdom was a pivotal moment that shaped not only his reign, but also his legacy. Yet his fall later in life reminds us that wisdom alone isn't enough without a lasting relationship with God. Now let's turn our focus to Solomon's Proverbs. Number 1. Proverbs about relationships. Solomon's wisdom wasn't just about lofty philosophical ideas, it was also about real-life relationships. In the book of Proverbs, he gives practical and often straightforward advice on how to build and maintain relationships that honor God and the people around us. Whether he's talking about family, friendships, or marriage, Solomon stresses the importance of love, loyalty, and integrity in all our interactions. In his view, relationships are one of the main ways we practice wisdom, and the quality of our relationships often shows just how wise we are. When it comes to friendships, Solomon doesn't beat around the bush about the kind of people we should keep close. Proverbs 13 verse 20 says, "Walk with the wise and become wise, for a companion of fools suffers harm." The people we spend time with, Solomon suggests, have a huge impact on our character and choices. Good friends encourage us to grow, hold us accountable, and share our values. On the other hand, bad company can drag us down and lead us into trouble. Solomon warns against being friends with people who are dishonest, quick to anger, or always stirring up conflict. Instead, he urges us to choose friends who embody wisdom, humility, and kindness, people who push us to be the best version of ourselves. Loyalty and trust are also big themes in Solomon's advice on relationships. Proverbs 17 verse 17 says, "A friend loves at all times, and a brother is born for a time of adversity." True friendship, according to Solomon, is marked by loyalty, especially in tough times. Fair-weather friends who vanish when things get hard aren't real friends. Solomon understood the value of surrounding ourselves with people who are dependable, supportive, and loving, even when life gets rough. These kinds of relationships are rare, but priceless, and Solomon encourages us to care for them with intention and effort. Solomon's wisdom about family is just as practical. One of his most famous verses on parenting is Proverbs 22 verse 6. "Start children off on the way they should go, and even when they are old, they will not turn from it." He recognized the massive responsibility that comes with raising kids. Parents are called to teach their children to love wisdom and embrace discipline from an early age. This isn't just about shaping behavior, it's about molding their character and hearts to follow God's ways. Solomon also places a strong emphasis on respect within the family. Children should honor their parents, and parents are called to guide their children with love and wisdom. Marriage is another area where Solomon offers insight. He highlights both the joys and difficulties of marriage, understanding that it's one of the most important relationships in a person's life. Proverbs 18 verse 22 says, "He who finds a wife finds what is good and receives favor from the Lord." Solomon acknowledges that a marriage rooted in love and mutual respect is a gift from God. But he also warns against contentious relationships, saying it's better to live in a small corner of the roof than with a quarrelsome spouse. Proverbs 21 verse 9. For Solomon, a successful marriage isn't just about love. It's built on wisdom, patience, and humility. Number 2, Proverbs on work, success, and wealth. The book of Proverbs gives us deep insights into how work, success, and wealth play a role in living a meaningful life. For Solomon, success wasn't the ultimate goal, but rather a way to honor God and live with integrity. His wisdom on these topics goes beyond just making money or gaining status. It focuses on hard work, honesty, and a balanced attitude toward wealth. Solomon understood that while success and wealth can be blessings, they come with responsibilities and temptations that require wisdom to handle. One of Solomon's key teachings about work is the importance of diligence. In Proverbs 6 verse 6 to 11, he paints a picture of this through the example of the ant. "Go to the ant, you sluggard. Consider its ways and be wise. It has no commander, no overseer or ruler, yet it stores its provisions in summer and gathers its food at harvest." Here, Solomon contrasts the hard-working ant with the laziness of a sluggard, encouraging us to develop self-motivation and foresight. The ant's wisdom lies in its ability to work hard without supervision and plan for the future. This lesson shows that diligence isn't just about working hard for the sake of it. It's about taking charge of our own lives and preparing wisely for what's to come. Solomon also points out that success naturally follows disciplined, consistent effort. In Proverbs 10 verse 4, he writes, "Lazy hands make for poverty, but diligent hands bring wealth." The link between hard work and prosperity is a common theme in Proverbs, but Solomon doesn't promote materialism. Instead, he highlights diligence as a reflection of good character. Hard work with integrity and purpose brings more than financial rewards. It leads to personal growth, fulfillment, and the ability to help others. Solomon's message is clear. Success achieved through honest effort is valuable, but trying to cheat the system or rely on laziness will only lead to failure in the long run. That said, Solomon also warns about the dangers of obsessing over wealth. In Proverbs 23, verse 4 to 5, he writes, "Do not wear yourself out to get rich. Do not trust your cleverness. Cast but a glance at riches, and they are gone, for they will surely sprout wings and fly off to the sky like an eagle." This is a powerful reminder of how temporary material wealth can be. Even with all his riches, Solomon knew that money isn't a solid foundation for life. It can vanish just as quickly as it comes. For Solomon, the key is balance. Hard work and wealth are good, but chasing after money at the cost of everything else can lead to spiritual and moral downfall. Another important lesson from Solomon's Proverbs is the idea of generosity. Proverbs 11 verse 24-25 says, "One person gives freely, yet gains even more. Another withholds unduly, but comes to poverty. A generous person will prosper. Whoever refreshes others will be refreshed." This teaching flips conventional thinking. True prosperity doesn't come from hoarding wealth, but from sharing it. Solomon understood that generosity has a ripple effect, blessing not just the recipient, but also the giver. On the other hand, those who are stingy often find themselves empty, even if they have a lot of money. And this doesn't just apply to finances. It's also about giving our time, talents, and energy to help others. By doing so, we reflect God's generosity, acknowledging that everything we have is ultimately a gift from Him. Solomon also speaks against greed and dishonesty in the pursuit of wealth. Proverbs 13:11 warns, "Dishonest money dwindles away, but whoever gathers money little by little makes it grow." Gaining wealth through dishonest means, whether by cheating, exploiting others, or using unethical business practices, will eventually lead to downfall. Solomon emphasizes the importance of earning wealth in a way that honors God and respects others. This steady, honest accumulation of wealth is in stark contrast to the get-rich-quick mindset that's common in many cultures. Solomon knew that wealth gained through hard work and integrity brings true satisfaction, while wealth obtained dishonestly often comes with guilt, shame, and eventual loss. Reflecting on Solomon's wisdom about work and wealth, it's clear that success isn't just about material gain. True success, according to Proverbs, is a life filled with diligence, integrity, generosity, and balance. Solomon's teachings encourage us to see work as a way to honor God, contribute to society, and build a life with purpose. He challenges us to view wealth not as an end goal, but as a tool, something that can either be used to bless others or trap us in greed and pride. Number 3. Proverbs on speech and communication. The words we speak hold incredible power. They can heal or hurt, build up or break down, and reveal wisdom or expose foolishness. Solomon in his Proverbs spends a lot of time stressing the importance of thoughtful and wise speech. To him, our words aren't just a way to communicate, they're a reflection of our character and what's in our hearts. He understood that words carry weight, and how we use them can have long-lasting effects on both ourselves and others. Solomon's wisdom gives us timeless advice on using words in ways that promote truth, peace, and righteousness. One of Solomon's most powerful lessons on speech comes in Proverbs 18, verse 21. The tongue has the power of life and death, and those who love it will eat its fruit. This verse captures the heart of Solomon's teaching. Our words can either bring life or cause destruction. Words can inspire, comfort, and heal, but they can also wound, deceive, and divide. His message is clear. How we speak truly matters. Whether it's in casual conversations, debates, or during conflicts, the words we choose have a huge impact on our relationships, reputation, and spiritual health. In Proverbs 10, verse 19, Solomon adds another layer to his teaching. Sin is not ended by multiplying words, but the prudent hold their tongues. He's reminding us that wisdom often means knowing when to stay quiet. In a world where people often speak without thinking, Solomon highlights the virtue of restraint. Talking too much, especially without thinking carefully, can lead to trouble, whether it's gossip, slander, or saying something we regret later. Solomon's advice to hold one's tongue shows a deep understanding of human nature. Silence, when used wisely, can prevent misunderstandings, calm conflicts, and show self-control. Sometimes there's more wisdom in listening than in speaking. Gossip, in particular, is a harmful misuse of words that Solomon strongly condemns. Proverbs 16, verse 28 warns, "A perverse person stirs up conflict, and a gossip separates close friends." Solomon knew how destructive gossip can be, tearing apart relationships and communities. While gossip may seem harmless or even entertaining, it ultimately destroys trust and sows division. His wisdom still applies today. Gossip not only hurts those it targets, but also reflects poorly on the person spreading it. Choosing to avoid gossip and steering clear of harmful conversations is a true sign of wisdom and integrity. Honesty is another key theme in Solomon's teachings on speech. He places great importance on telling the truth and warns against the dangers of lying. Proverbs 12, verse 22 says, "The Lord detests lying lips, but he delights in people who are trustworthy." For Solomon, honesty is about more than just being morally good. It's a reflection of our relationship with God. Lying, whether to gain something or to avoid consequences, ultimately harms both the liar and those around them. On the flip side, honesty builds trust, strengthens relationships, and aligns us with God's truth. Solomon's emphasis on honesty reminds us that integrity in our words is a cornerstone of living wisely. But Solomon also knows that truth needs to be balanced with grace. In Proverbs 15, verse 1, he teaches, "A gentle answer turns away wrath, but a harsh word stirs up anger." This verse shows the importance of not just speaking truth, but doing so in a way that encourages peace and understanding. Even if our words are true, saying them in a harsh, cutting way can make things worse. On the other hand, a gentle, thoughtful response can calm tensions and help resolve conflicts. Solomon's wisdom challenges us to be both honest and compassionate, recognizing that how we say something is often just as important as what we say. In short, Solomon's teachings on speech remind us that words are powerful and should be used with care. Whether we're talking with family, friends, or strangers, our words have the potential to either build up or tear down, to heal or hurt. Solomon challenges us to be mindful of what we say, to choose our words wisely, and to speak in ways that reflect wisdom, integrity, and love. Number 4. Proverbs on moral discipline and conduct. Moral discipline is a key theme in Solomon's Proverbs, where he emphasizes that wisdom isn't just about knowing things, it's about living a disciplined, righteous life. For Solomon, wisdom and discipline go hand in hand. Without self-control and the willingness to accept correction, true wisdom is out of reach. His Proverbs constantly highlight how important instruction and correction are for moral growth. Through discipline, Solomon teaches us how to align our lives with God's principles, avoid the traps of foolishness, and live in a way that honors both God and ourselves. One of the clearest statements on discipline comes from Proverbs 12 verse 1. Whoever loves discipline loves knowledge, but whoever hates correction is stupid. Solomon doesn't hold back here, using strong language to make his point. Accepting correction is crucial. If we reject discipline, we're rejecting wisdom itself, because it's through correction that we grow and improve. Solomon understood that none of us naturally lean toward righteousness. We need guidance, correction, and accountability to stay on the right path. Discipline, whether it comes from God, from others, or from our own self-restraint, is a gift that helps us become wiser and better people. At the heart of moral discipline is self-control, which Solomon talks about often in Proverbs. In Proverbs 25 verse 28, he writes, "Like a city whose walls are broken through is a person who lacks self-control." This paints a powerful picture. Just as a city without walls is exposed to danger, a person without self-control is vulnerable to temptation and downfall. Self-control isn't just about resisting external temptations, it's about managing our desires, impulses, and emotions. Whether it's in how we speak, act, or handle relationships, self-control is the foundation of a life built on integrity and wisdom. Connected to self-control is humility, another crucial part of moral discipline. Proverbs 11 verse 2 says, "When pride comes, then comes disgrace, but with humility comes wisdom." Solomon warns that pride blinds us to our own mistakes and keeps us from learning, while humility opens us up to correction and growth. Humility allows us to recognize our need for discipline and accept it without resentment. In this way, humility and discipline work together, keeping us on the path to righteousness. Another major part of moral discipline is being willing to learn from others, especially from wise and godly mentors. Proverbs 13 verse 1 teaches, "A wise son heeds his father's instruction, but a mocker does not respond to rebukes." Solomon frequently stresses how important it is to be teachable, to listen to the advice of those who have walked the path of wisdom before us. Whether it's a parent, teacher, or spiritual leader, wise counsel is essential for growing in wisdom. Rejecting such instruction is a clear sign of foolishness, while embracing it leads to a life of wisdom and blessing. Solomon's teachings on moral discipline also touch on justice and righteousness in how we treat others. Proverbs 21 verse 3 says, "To do what is right and just is more acceptable to the Lord than sacrifice." Here, Solomon reminds us that true righteousness isn't just about religious rituals or outward shows of piety, it's about living a life that reflects God's justice and mercy. Moral discipline involves treating others fairly, with compassion and integrity, and it comes from a heart that's in tune with God's will. Number 5. Proverbs on leadership and governance. Solomon wasn't just a man of great personal wisdom. He was also a ruler who applied that wisdom to the challenging task of governing a nation. His Proverbs give us priceless insights into the qualities that make for strong leadership, with a focus on wisdom, justice, and integrity as the core traits of effective leaders. For Solomon, leadership wasn't about power or personal gain. It was about serving people with fairness and humility. His teachings on leadership offer timeless principles that are just as relevant for today's leaders as they were for the kings of ancient Israel. One of Solomon's best-known teachings on leadership is found in Proverbs 16 verse 12. "Kings detest wrongdoing, for a throne is established through righteousness. This verse emphasizes that true and lasting leadership is built on doing what's right in the eyes of God and for the people. Solomon knew that while corrupt leadership may succeed for a while, it eventually collapses. A leader's authority is upheld by their commitment to justice and righteousness. This principle isn't just for kings. It applies to anyone in a position of authority, whether in business, ministry, or family life. Integrity is another major theme in Solomon's teachings on leadership. Proverbs 29 verse 4 says, "By justice, a king gives a country stability, but those who are greedy for bribes tear it down." Solomon warns that leaders driven by greed or dishonesty will ultimately ruin the very institutions they're meant to protect. Leadership is a sacred responsibility, and those in power must lead with a strong sense of justice. Solomon's wisdom reminds us that real leadership is about serving others with honesty and fairness, not pursuing self-interest. Solomon also highlights the need for wise counsel and leadership. Proverbs 11 verse 14 says, "For lack of guidance, a nation falls, but victory is won through many advisors." Even the wisest leaders need input from others to govern well. Good leadership means surrounding yourself with trusted, knowledgeable advisors who can offer valuable perspectives. Solomon himself benefited from the counsel of the elders of Israel and knew that isolating yourself or refusing to listen to advice is a recipe for failure. This underscores the importance of collaboration, humility, and seeking guidance when leading. Solomon also addresses the leader's relationship with their people. In Proverbs 29 verse 2 he writes, "When the righteous thrive, the people rejoice. When the wicked rule, the people groan." He understood that the well-being of the people is directly connected to the righteousness of their leaders. A good leader brings joy, stability, and prosperity to their people, while a corrupt or oppressive leader causes misery and unrest. This serves as a powerful reminder that leadership isn't about personal gain. It's about creating a space where justice, peace, and growth are possible for everyone. Finally, Solomon warns about the dangers of pride in leadership. Proverbs 16 verse 18 says, "Pride goes before destruction, a haughty spirit before a fall." Leaders who are consumed with pride and think they're above correction are headed for disaster. Solomon's wisdom calls for humility in leadership, reminding us that even the most powerful leaders are accountable to God. Humility helps leaders stay grounded, listen to others, and lead with wisdom and grace. Number 6. The fear of the Lord. Among all the themes in the book of Proverbs, none is more foundational than the fear of the Lord. For Solomon, this isn't just another idea, it's the core on which all wisdom is built. Proverbs 1 verse 7 famously says, "The fear of the Lord is the beginning of knowledge, but fools despise wisdom and instruction." This verse sets the tone for the whole book, making it clear that the fear of the Lord is the starting point for any real pursuit of wisdom. But what does it mean to fear the Lord, and why does Solomon focus so much on it? The fear of the Lord, as Solomon describes it, isn't about being scared of God in a way that makes us want to avoid him. Instead, it's about having a deep sense of awe and respect for God's power, holiness, and authority. It's recognizing that God is in control of all creation and that his wisdom is far greater than ours. To fear the Lord means humbly accepting that we depend on him and that real wisdom comes from aligning our lives with his will. This kind of fear isn't crippling. It's freeing, leading us toward a life that's full of righteousness and blessings. Throughout Proverbs, Solomon keeps coming back to this idea, showing that the fear of the Lord is the key to understanding everything else in life. In Proverbs 9 verse 10, he reinforces this. "The fear of the Lord is the beginning of wisdom, and knowledge of the Holy One is understanding." Here, he connects the fear of the Lord not only to wisdom, but also to knowing God personally. Solomon teaches that wisdom isn't just about making smart choices. It's about knowing who God is and living in sync with his character. The better we understand God, the better we understand what it means to live wisely. This shapes how we see the world, how we treat others, and how we make decisions. Living in the fear of the Lord also brings great rewards. Proverbs 22 verse 4 says, "Humility is the fear of the Lord. Its wages are riches and honor and life." Solomon knew that a life grounded in reverence for God leads to true prosperity, not necessarily in terms of material wealth, but in the richness of living according to God's plan. The fear of the Lord brings peace, security, and a deep sense of purpose, because we learn to trust God's wisdom instead of relying on our own. Solomon's message is clear. When we put God at the center of our lives, everything else falls into place. The fear of the Lord also acts as a form of protection. Proverbs 19, verse 23 tells us, "The fear of the Lord leads to life. Then one rests content, untouched by trouble." Solomon teaches that those who live with reverence for God can move through life with confidence, knowing that God is watching over them. This doesn't mean life will be free of challenges, but it does mean that those who fear the Lord can rest in the assurance that God is guiding them. Solomon's wisdom encourages us to trust that God, in his infinite wisdom, knows what's best and will lead us down the right path. The wisdom of Solomon is not passive. It demands a response. It calls us to step away from the distractions and trivialities that surround us and to align our hearts with the eternal truths that have shaped lives for millennia. This wisdom is not just to be admired from afar. It's a call to action, a challenge to embody the values of humility, discipline, and reverence for God in every aspect of life. Solomon's words are a mirror, reflecting our deepest longings for purpose, peace, and meaning. And now the choice is ours. Will we merely listen, or will we dare to live differently? Today, make the decision to seek wisdom as Solomon did, with an open heart and an undivided spirit. Let these proverbs be more than ancient sayings. Let them be the foundation of a life well lived. A life where each step is guided by the fear of the Lord and each decision is rooted in integrity. This is not a path for the faint-hearted, but for those who are ready to embrace something deeper, something lasting. If this resonates with you, then take a bold step. Commit to growing in wisdom and aligning your life with God's design. Subscribe to this channel to continue this journey of discovery and transformation. Share this pursuit of wisdom with others, and together, let us walk the path that leads not only to knowledge, but to a life of enduring significance.